Two 18-year-olds graduate from the same high school in the same town. Same classrooms, same teachers, same starting line. From the outside, there's no reason to believe their lives will turn out any differently, but within a few months they make two completely different decisions. Emma follows the path everyone around her recommends. College, degree, stability. It sounds safe, almost guaranteed. She enrolls in a state university, chooses a respectable major, and steps into what she believes is the beginning of her future. Jake pauses, not because he's lazy, not because he lacks ambition, but because he asks a question most people don't. What am I actually getting in return for this? He doesn't get a clear answer, so instead of enrolling, he takes a job, entry-level, nothing glamorous, the kind of job people scroll past, the kind of job that doesn't impress anyone at family gatherings, and just like that, their paths split. Emma's life moves into a structured routine. Classes, assignments, exams, semesters. Every year comes with a bill. Tuition, housing, books, daily expenses. The numbers stack quietly in the background. But she doesn't feel the full weight of it yet, because she's not paying in real time. She signs documents. The money gets handled behind the scenes. It doesn't feel like spending. It feels like progress. And that's the part no one really explains. When you don't physically hand over the money, your brain doesn't register the loss the same way. It becomes abstract, distant, easy to ignore, so Emma focuses on what's in front of her: grades, internships, social life, building what she believes is a strong foundation. Jake's life looks very different. He wakes up early, goes to work, repeats the same tasks, learns things slowly, not from textbooks but from real situations. At first, it feels small. While Emma is building a future, Jake feels like he's just getting by, but something subtle is happening in the background. He's earning, not a lot, but consistently. And more importantly, he's not going into debt. In his first year, Jake notices something. After covering basic expenses, he still has a little money left. Not enough to change his life overnight, but enough to make a decision. He could spend it, or he could do something most 18-year-olds never think about. He starts investing, nothing complicated, nothing risky. Just a simple, consistent amount every month. It doesn't feel powerful, in fact. It feels almost insignificant. But time doesn't care about feelings. Time rewards consistency. Year 2. Emma is deeper into her degree, her knowledge is growing, her network is expanding. On the surface, everything looks exactly like it should, but financially something else is happening. Her debt is growing. Not dramatically overnight, but steadily, quietly, almost invisibly, because again, she's not paying it yet. There's no monthly reminder, no immediate consequence, just a number increasing in the background. Jake, on the other hand, is still working. His income increases slightly, not a huge jump, but enough to notice. He moves out, shares an apartment with roommates to keep costs low, and every month, without fail, he keeps investing. Same amount, same discipline. No excitement, no shortcuts, just repetition. By year 3, the contrast becomes more interesting. Emma is closer to graduating. There's pressure now, expectations. What's next? Where will you work? What's your starting salary going to be? She's preparing to enter the real world. Jake is already in it. He has 3 years of experience. He understands workplace dynamics. He's made mistakes, learned from them, adjusted, and his investments, they're still growing, slowly, quietly, but consistently. Year 4 arrives. Emma graduates, degree in hand, proud, relieved, ready. This is the moment she's been working toward. She lands a job, decent salary, a clear step forward. Everything finally feels like it's paying off. But then reality introduces itself, not dramatically, not all at once. Just a number, her student loan balance, a number that didn't feel real before, now very real. Because now it's time to start paying it back. Jake is 22 now, same age as Emma, but his position looks very different. He's been working for 4 years. His salary has increased gradually, not explosive growth, but steady progress. He has no debt, and those small monthly investments he started at 18, they've turned into something tangible, not life-changing yet, but real. At 22, both of them are standing at the same age again, but not the same position. Emma has a degree and a higher starting salary, but she also has a large financial obligation waiting for her every month. Jake earns slightly less, but he keeps more of what he earns, and he's been building something in the background for 4 years straight. This is where most people make a critical mistake. They compare income. They look at who earns more, but they ignore something far more important: Net position, what you have minus what you owe, because income alone doesn't tell the full story. Cash flow matters, debt matters, time matters. Emma earns more on paper, but every month a portion of her income disappears into loan payments. Jake earns less, but he doesn't have that burden, so despite earning less, he may actually have more usable money, more flexibility, more control, and here's where things get uncomfortable, because the gap between them isn't just about money, it's about momentum. Jake started earlier. Even if his steps were smaller, he started moving forward at 18. Emma is just starting now. At 22 and those 4 years, you can't rewind them. Time is the one asset you can't borrow, delay, or refinance. And in finance, time does something powerful. It compounds, not just money, decisions, habits, position. At 18, 4 years feels small. At 22, it starts to feel significant, but over decades, it becomes massive. This isn't a story about who is smarter or who works harder. Emma isn't wrong. Jake isn't necessarily right. They simply made different decisions under different assumptions. Emma assumed the system would reward her path in a predictable way. Jake questioned the system and chose a different approach. And now, at the same age, standing in two different financial realities, a quiet question begins to form. What actually matters more, the path that feels safe or the one that changes your numbers over time? Because what happens next is where the real difference begins to show. At 22, the difference between them is no longer theoretical, it's measurable. Emma steps into her new job with a sense of urgency. There's pressure now, not just to succeed, but to keep up. Every month comes with a fixed obligation, a number she cannot ignore anymore, a payment. It doesn't care how she feels. It doesn't adjust based on her lifestyle. It shows up every single month demanding its share. And suddenly her higher salary doesn't feel as powerful as she imagined, because a portion of it was never really hers to begin with. Jake's situation feels lighter, not easy, not perfect, but lighter. He doesn't wake up thinking about debt. He doesn't calculate his decisions around a fixed monthly burden. Instead, he has options. And in finance, options are everything. Over the next few years, something interesting happens. Emma works hard, really hard. She pushes for promotions, takes on more responsibility, tries to increase her income as fast as possible, because in her mind, increasing income is the solution, and she's not wrong. But there's a hidden limitation. Every raise she earns is partially absorbed by taxes, by living costs, and most importantly, by debt repayment. So even when she moves forward, it feels like something is holding her back, like running on a treadmill that slightly tilts against you. Jake also progresses. His growth is slower on paper, smaller raises, less dramatic jumps, but his situation compounds differently. Every increase in income directly improves his life because there's no major liability pulling from the other side, and his investments, they're no longer small. They've grown, not explosively. Not overnight, but steadily enough to start making a difference. This is where the concept most people underestimate begins to show its power: consistency over intensity. Emma made a big, intense investment upfront, her education. Jake made small, consistent investments over time. And now, time starts to reveal which approach carries more weight financially. By their late 20s, the gap hasn't disappeared. In fact, in many ways, it's widened. Emma has reduced her debt, but it's still there. Years of payments, and yet a balance remains, because interest doesn't just sit quietly, it works in the background just like investments do, but in the opposite direction. Jake's investments, on the other hand, are doing the exact opposite. They're growing. And more importantly, they're starting to generate returns on previous returns. This is the moment where compounding stops being a concept and starts becoming visible. Now here's the part nobody talks about. It's not just about numbers anymore, it's about behavior. Emma becomes more cautious, not because she wants to, but because she has to. Career risks feel dangerous. Switching jobs feels risky. Taking a break feels impossible, because there's always that monthly payment waiting. Jake experiences the opposite. He has flexibility. He can switch jobs, take calculated risks, even take a temporary pay cut if it leads to a better long-term opportunity, because he doesn't have a fixed financial weight limiting his choices. Freedom isn't always about how much you earn. Sometimes it's about how much you're obligated to pay. By the time they reach their early 30s, something shifts. Emma finally pays off her loans. It's a huge moment, a sense of relief. For the first time in over a decade, her income is fully hers, no mandatory payment pulling from it. And now she can finally start doing what Jake started at 18, investing. But there's a quiet realization that comes with it. She's starting now. At 32, Jake has been doing this for 14 years. This is where time reveals its true value, because investing isn't just about how much you put in, it's about how long it stays in, and Jake's money has had a head start, a significant one. From this point forward, both of them are technically doing the same thing. Earning, saving, investing, same strategies, same intentions, but not the same position, because one of them had time working for them much earlier. As the years go by, the gap begins to close, but very slowly. Emma is catching up. Her higher income helps, her discipline helps, but she's chasing something that had a long head start. And catching up in finance is always harder than starting early. By their 40s, both are doing relatively well. Stable careers, growing investments. From the outside, they might even look similar, but under the surface, the numbers still tell a different story. Jake's portfolio is larger, not because he was smarter, not because he worked harder, but because he started earlier and avoided a major setback. And that's the part most people miss. It's not just about gaining advantage, it's about avoiding disadvantage. Because a large financial setback early in life doesn't just slow you down, it changes your entire trajectory. Eventually there comes a point, a crossover moment where Emma finally catches up, where her net worth matches and then slightly exceeds Jake's. But look at when it happens. Not in her 20s, not in her 30s, not even in her early 40s. Much later, decades after that original decision at 18. Think about that for a second. Two people, same starting point, one decision, and it takes decades to equalize. This doesn't mean college is bad. It doesn't mean skipping it is always better. That's not the point. The point is something much simpler and much more uncomfortable. Every path has a cost. Some costs are obvious, some are hidden, and the most dangerous ones are the ones you don't calculate. Education absolutely has value, but price matters. Timing matters. Return matters, because when something becomes expensive enough, you can't treat it like a default decision anymore. The real problem isn't that people choose college. It's that many people never run the numbers before choosing it. They assume, they trust, they follow. At 18, most people are making one of the biggest financial decisions of their lives without fully understanding the long-term impact. No breakdown, no scenario comparison, no clear picture of what they're trading. Imagine making a six-figure decision without calculating the return. In any other area of life, that would sound irresponsible, but here it's normal, expected, even. And that's why stories like Emma and Jake matter. Not because one is right and the other is wrong, but because they reveal something most people never see clearly. Small decisions made early don't stay small. They grow, they compound, they shape everything that comes after. So the real question isn't, should you go to college? The real question is, what are you paying and what are you getting back? Because when you understand that, you stop following paths blindly, and you start choosing them intentionally, and that changes everything.